Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving deep into some of humanity's biggest questions. Why are we here? What happens when we die? We're going to explore all of this through the lens of Sunni Islamic theology, using some really foundational texts and arguments as our guide.
So, here's our roadmap. We're going to take a four-part journey. We'll start at the very beginning, the foundation of existence itself. Then we'll move into the purpose of life, the transition of death, and finally, what Islamic teachings say comes after it all.
Okay, let's jump right in, starting with the most fundamental question you can ask. What are the rational arguments for God's existence in Islam? Where does this whole framework even begin?
What's fascinating is that instead of just starting with a command to believe, the Quran kicks things off with a question. It's really a logical challenge. It basically says, look, there are only three possibilities for our existence. We popped out of absolute nothing, we created ourselves, or something else created us. The first two just don't hold up logically, which pushes you to seriously consider that third option.
Now, this line of reasoning gets formalized into what philosophers call the cosmological argument. Think of it like a long chain of dominoes. Each domino falls because the one right before it hit it, right? But what or who pushed that very first domino? The argument is that the universe, which science tells us had a beginning, the Big Bang, must have had an initial push, an uncaused first cause, and that first cause is what's understood to be the creator.
And this is where things get really interesting because the focus shifts from just cause to purpose. This is the design argument. It asks us to look at the incredible, mind-boggling complexity and fine-tuning of the universe. Everything from the physical laws that let stars form to the biology of a single cell, it all seems so perfectly balanced. The argument is that this level of intricate order points not to some random cosmic accident, but to an intelligent design.
You don't have to be a physicist to get this logic. This classic quote from a Bedouin Arab just nails it with such simple wisdom. You see the tracks. You know a camel was there. In the same way, when you look at the sun, the moon, and the stars, the argument is that these vast, complex signs in the universe are testifying to the existence of a creator. It's all about seeing the artist in the art.
All right, so let's follow this train of thought. If we accept the premise of a creator, the very next question that hits you is, well, why? What's our mission? Why were we put here on this earth?
The foundational answer given in the Quran is incredibly direct and clear. The whole point of our existence is to worship. But hold on, because that word, worship, can bring a lot of different images to mind. So what does it actually mean in this worldview?
This is a huge point. The definition of worship, or ibadah in Arabic, is so much broader than just formal rituals like praying or fasting. It's meant to cover your entire life. Seriously, any good action, being honest at your job, taking care of your parents, even just smiling at someone, can become an act of worship, as long as the intention behind it is to please God.
So you can see how this purposeful life is built on these four key pillars. It all starts with direct acts of worship, or ibadah. Then you've got ihsan, which means striving for excellence and beauty in everything you do. Next is adl, the constant struggle for justice and fairness in the world. And finally, there's ilm, the lifelong pursuit of knowledge. It's this really holistic, all-encompassing way to live a meaningful life.
And woven through this whole idea of purpose is the concept that life is a test. This reframes everything. All our experiences, the good times and the really tough times, they aren't just random events. They're seen as opportunities for us to grow spiritually and to prepare our souls for the journey that's still to come.
And that, of course, brings us to the one reality that is universal and completely unavoidable: death. In the Islamic worldview, though, death isn't the end. It's not a light switching off for good. It's actually understood as a critical and profound transition from one stage of existence into the next. So, here's how that journey is set to unfold. It all begins at the moment of death, when the soul is taken. It then enters an intermediate state called the barzakh, which is often translated as the grave, where it waits for the final day of judgment. And during this time, the soul is visited by two angels and asks three crucial questions about its core beliefs. Who is your Lord? What is your religion? And who is your prophet?
And the experience of this transition is described as being totally different depending on the life a person led. It's a really stark contrast. Prophetic traditions use these powerful images. The soul of a believer flows out gently, like water from a flask, while the soul of a disbeliever is ripped out harshly. So the very first step of this next journey is a direct reflection of the life that was just lived.
So let's recap. Life is the test, death is the transition, and this whole journey culminates right here,
in a state of ultimate, perfect, and absolute justice, where every single action finally finds its true consequence.
This is known as the Day of Judgment, or Yom al-Qiyamah. The teaching is that all of humanity, everyone, from the very first person to the very last, will be brought back to life to stand before God. This is the moment where absolute fairness is finally established. Every deed, big or small, good or bad, is brought into the light and weighed on the scales.
And based on that final, perfect accounting, the two ultimate destinations are described. You have paradise, or Jannah, which is pictured as an eternal garden of pure joy, peace, and the ultimate reward, being close to God. And then you have hell, or Jahannam, a place of punishment, the consequence for those who rejected belief and chose to persist in wrongdoing. But, when it comes to paradise, even with all the descriptions of gardens and rivers, this prophetic tradition makes something very clear. Its reality is completely beyond our limited human imagination. It's a reward that goes so far beyond any worldly pleasure we could ever dream of.
And that really leaves us with a final massive thought to reflect on. If this life, with all of its amazing joys and its heartbreaking sorrows, is really just a short, brief preparation for an eternal one, how does that change our whole perspective on success, on failure, on justice, and on the meaning of everything we do today?